show you how to use After Effects to animate insane music video effects or visualizers. Animating something like this is one of the best things you can do as a beginner because of how simple it is. I'm going to show you a lot in this tutorial, but you can easily dumb down what I'm showing you to pump videos like this out within 10 minutes. Videos like this are great for selling as a service to clients if you're trying to do this as an internet side hustle with editing. Aside from making visualizers, you can also use the steps I'm going to show you to create full-on unique effects for larger scale music videos. So if you enjoy, likes and comments are always appreciated. Subscribe to join our community down below, and let's dive in and I'll walk you through this step by step. All right, so hopping in After Effects, let's start from scratch here, teach you some of these basics, and then I'll show you how we can kind of get crazy with it and experiment to create some cool stuff. I'm gonna go here and create a new composition, and we'll drag in some footage here. Now, if you're creating a visualizer or you want some crazy effect moment in your video, the starting steps are going to be the same. We need to isolate the face that's going to be the centerpiece of our visualizer. So find a spot where you like, maybe like right here. I'm going to start by right-clicking, going to New and creating a camera, and we'll click OK. And then I'll click Toggle Switches and Modes here, and I'll just make this a 3D layer. And I'm just going to set up a simple little zoom. So I'll go and open up the transform for the camera. I'm going to keyframe everything at the beginning here. So I'll drag to the beginning, keyframe it all, drag to where I want it zoomed into the face. And then I'll click C here on my keyboard, and you can toggle through the camera controls. So this is pan. We want the zoom. So we'll just zoom in, and then we'll pan like this. And just center that how you want. So you see we've made some keyframes here for the camera where we just have a simple, slow zoom. So that's our build up to the effect, or again, for the visualizer. If you're doing this just with a visualizer, you probably don't need to make the camera. Now to actually isolate the face, we're going to select the layer here. We're going to click Control-Shift-D just to split at this exact point. I'll name this normal footage, and I'm going to name this face. So on the face layer, let's right click and we're going to go to time and we're going to freeze frame. So if I click play, it should just freeze right at this point. So let's go in and just grab our pen tool here in the top left, and I'm just going to make a simple little mask around the face. So once we've masked around our subject, so we've isolated the face, if I was to take the normal footage layer down here and just drag this out, we now have a little sandwich mashup where we can control this face. You see if I grab it, I can move it over, and I can place things in between here like a sandwich. As an example, let me just grab some normal footage here. This is a pre-rendered 3D clip, and we'll talk about different assets you can use or create yourself in a little bit, but I can put it here and you see how it's kind of peeking from around the head. You see how that works. And if you want the footage at the back to stay the same, again, that's just so we can get like the background, the neck, all of that. Of course, optional, but you would just have to Control-Shift-D to split there and then freeze frame this normal footage like we did with the face. So we go to time, freeze frame, and now we can place things behind the face just like that. So we've isolated the face layer with simple masking, and from here, you can really do anything you want. At this point, this is where the ideas, the creativity needs to come from your end. You need to figure out what you want to do, and I feel like I have the best results when I just kind of mess around. So for example, to recreate my original thing that I showed you, we can mask out the eyes. So again, just having more control over these layers. So here's our face layer. I'm going to go ahead and grab my pen tool, and I'll just create a little mask for the eyes. And then what we'll do, we'll click M on this layer to show the masks. And then you see this is on add. We want to change the two that we just made for the eyes to subtract so that we're cutting away from that. So now we can see through here, and you see on the bottom clip, the reason why this is normal is because we have the normal footage underneath. So if I was just to hide that, you can see now this is transparent. And you can do anything fun with the eyes or any other parts of the face. Maybe you want to cut away from the face and put like a piece of a skull or something. It's really up to you. The main thing I'm trying to get across here is the ability to control the layers with masking and to create some crazy things once you have that control over the layer. So I have this green screen eyeball clip. You can find these online, download them for free. And that's one of the main ways for doing this. If you just want some quick little assets like glitch clips or some crazy thing like this, green screen is super fast. You just download the clip, do what I just did there, look up the key light effect, put it on there, and then you just click like that. Now you have an eyeball. So that's one great option. There's a free green screen pack on my website. And again, keeping in mind the layer structure, you have to think of it like a sandwich. So if I want the eyeball underneath, I need to take the eyeball layer here and put it underneath the face layer. So now because we masked out the eye, I can scale this down and we've replaced the eye with this custom green screen eye. So you can get some cool, trippy results here just by sort of like photo bashing or video bashing the results. I'll click Control D to duplicate the eye and we can just move that over. Again, we've already masked this out. So it's extremely simple just to start putting something cool together. So some other cool things you could do here. You could add something like a turbulent displace, and I'll place this on my 3D clip here. I'll just name this flower. And again, later on, I'll show you how to get something like this for your own footage. And you can use the slider in your effect controls with the turbulent displace to add any sort of craziness. So I'll start it at 0. I'll just keyframe all of these just by clicking and dragging down. Again, starting here, we'll drag a bit and I'll just sort of go like this to kind of play around with the displacement. And now we've created a keyframe where this flower is going to sort of bend and warp. And you can do that with any of the assets in your compositions. You could do that with the eyes if you want. So I'll just Control C in the effect controls and Control V to paste that in. Now you see there's some distortion with the eyes. Another cool thing to use with this, if you're really just trying to mess around, create some trippy things, the liquify tool. So if I select my face layer, and we're getting super cluttered here, so let's just close these all up so it's a little easier to see. So another one, liquify, anything under distort. I have hundreds of different tutorials of different effects that you guys could look through and experiment with, but you can twist, you can bloat, you can grab and pull. So say I want to like pull like this, and I'll just start dragging up and making something that looks pretty crazy. To actually animate the liquid once you've made those, you need to open up the layer here. So we'll open up face, we'll open up effects, and you want to look for liquify. Open that. And then under here where it says distortion percentage, this is where you can animate it. So I want it to look like this at this point, distortion percentage 100 keyframe here. And then I'll find the part where I want it to start animating in. So I'll go to the very beginning and I'll put this down to 0. You see we've created a keyframe where it starts at 0, completely normal, and then it's going to animate. And at that point, it's going to be 100%. So you can change the point if you want. If you want it to be more gradual, or if you drag the keyframe in, it's going to quickly transform like that. So a cool way to manipulate the layer just by distorting it with liquify or any other distortion. And these are more advanced tips. If you want the absolute basics for creating something like a visualizer, you don't want to go in and put in crazy effects, things like that. You may want to just use the puppet tool. So let's bring back our normal footage. So here's what it looks like. And if you want to take your still image and add some subtle animation like you see in those little Dirk visualizers, here's what we can do. So we'll select the entire composition here. We're going to right click and we're going to pre-compose. I'll name this Tut Main. Let's find the point where everything's frozen right here. So that's one of the downsides of a freeze frame. Everything's just a still image. We're combating that by adding some animated elements, which gives some pretty cool looks. I'll click Control-Shift-D on my keyboard just to split. And we can grab our puppet tool. So grab your puppet tool. And this is a great tool in After Effects just for some simple little animation. We just want to click these different like control points here. So I'll just set up like a little control rig for the character. And then it's the same as the liquify in terms of animating it. We want to drag and then we want to add whatever change we want. We can just kind of drag the control points over here. And if you want, you can even add some control points to like the corners just so the entire screen doesn't like pin. Or optionally, you can go in and just only do this on the rotoed layers, but I think this is a bit easier. But there we go. So we've added a simple little animation with our keyframes where we're just swaying. And this is probably what you see the most from those photo visualizers where they're taking the photo, they're using After Effects just to animate it in some slight way, such as this. And again, let's drag some more, drag everything back over. And again, it's all keyframed. If you want to see those keyframes or make any adjustments with the composition here, you'll find Puppet under Effects. You want to go to Mesh 1. You want to go to Deform. You're going to see all those pins that you set up with each of the keyframes. So for example, if you want to change the timing, I can shift click all of these puppet pins and just open them up. If I think this is a little bit too slow, I can grab all these keyframes and just drag the timing in. So now it'll be a lot faster with the sway. Let's click, do the same with this part. And then what you can do from here, if you just like a simple movement, again, like swaying, of course, you can go in with the puppet tool and really try and get crazy with the animation. But again, keep it simple. Let's just select all of the puppet keyframes. I'll click Control C to copy them. And then I'll just drag a bit and click Control V so that we have this sort of looping sway like this. So now throughout our entire video, we have this swaying going back and forth. And yeah, again, all just controlling the layers, controlling the effects with that keyframe animation. If you want anything to go back to normal, so for example, with our liquefy here, we have that distortion percentage. Maybe you want that to loop as well. So we'll open the face layer, and the way I got back there, again, in this main comp, remember we pre-composed it, just double click. You can go back to all the adjustments you were doing before. So let's open up face, and again, effects, and you want to find liquefy. So here's the distortion percentage, that little keyframe animation where we have this just kind of going up like that. We can do the same thing here. We can select those keyframes, Control C to copy them, and then just Control V to paste, and you'll have this sort of looping animation where it's just going to keep going up and down. So that's a nice little tip for those of you who are making these animated visualizers or just an effect. If you want something looping, just learn how to make those simple keyframes and then just copy and paste them through the comp. And yes, I know you can also do loop expressions or whatever, but we're keeping this beginner friendly. So those are the main steps in After Effects for creating something like this. Again, it depends on what you ultimately want out of it. If you do want to go down the crazy routes where you see I'm changing the eyes, you can change parts of the face just by masking them out, or even just throwing on some like crazy little green screen clips or 3D renders. Let's talk a little bit about that. I'm going to sort of cut away the face and show like a 3D skull underneath. To do that, again, I can either look up an image of a skull, I can grab a green screen clip if I want it animated, or I can use a 3D software. Those are your three main tools for gathering your assets. So let's take you through each of those examples. Again, green screen, just search for it. A ton of these are free. They'll have a link below that you can download. And then you just use the key light effect to get rid of the green or just an image. So I'll look up skull PNG, and a little Google tip here. Make sure we're in images first. So tools, color, and transparent. That way it's only going to show you PNGs. So you want to see this checkerboard here. So let's find a PNG image here. Maybe like this, real human bones for sale. Pretty terrifying, but in this case, it's the perfect asset for our After Effects project. So we'll just drag it in like this once you've saved it. And again, controlling the layers. First, we want to scale this up. So I'll click S, and I'll just sort of align this with the face. And then next, we want to drag this down so that it's below all of our cutout layers. So let's drag this below face. And then all we have to do is just make a little cutout so that we can actually see the skull where we want. So let's grab the face layer and let's create a second mask. And maybe you want that to pop in too. It's another little tip that can create some cool little alteration and animation for this, because again, it's a still image. We're doing our best to animate in moving parts to turn it into a video visualizer. So you can select the face, Control-Shift-D to cut, move a few, Control-Shift-D to cut. And on this spot, I want the skull to show. So I'll select here, even name this skull show face, and I'll just create a second mask. So pen tool, maybe we'll cut away from like the jaw, click M and change that mask to subtract. There you go. And then you can alter this like here, sort of get it how you want. If you want, you can add feather just to smooth the edge of this mask out. So if I go here, mask feather, the more I bump that up, the more it's going to soften the edge and sort of blend it with the original, which is cool. And then you can even look for like a curves effect and put that on the skull. So here's my skull layer, curves, and then you can use that to sort of color correct it so that it'll match the way you want. So that's pretty cool. Again, make sure that you're also cutting the parts where you want. So you see this entire image is just through the whole composition. We only want this right here. And if you want, you can even mask the area of the skull that you want so that it's not showing in the eyes, something like that. So that's cool. We'll just have the skull kind of pop in like this. And again, talking about that pop in effect, that works really well for different animated assets. Like for example, a simple glitch clip. Again, if you just search up glitch clip, I have them on my website as well that you can download for free. transform, fit to comp. And we don't want the black background here. So I'll go to toggle switches and modes so that I can see these blending modes. We'll change this to add. And then if you want, you can like mask the glitch. So it's only a specific spot. And then you can use that little tip where we're just doing quick cuts. So we'll start it right here. Maybe we'll have 2 glitches. So we'll start one at the beginning. You want these to be pretty quick. So Control-Shift-D. There you go. So it's just going to be a pop-in glitch like that and then back to normal. So some cool little animation tips just for popping in different assets. Now let's talk about the last part of this tutorial. And again, this is all just assets. And that is creating your own assets. So we've talked about green screen, we've talked about images, but green screen clips and images are limited in of themselves. What if you want to create your own assets? You can use a free software like Blender. Highly recommend anyone who's a video editor learns 3D to implement it into their workflow in some sort of way. It gives you so many options for being able to create anything that you want. So I'm not going to talk about how to use Blender in this video. I have a free course on my channel. I'll link that below if you want to learn Blender. If you are a beginner and you want to take baby steps into 3D, I recommend you check out my Director 3D plugin. It has animations, templates, over 100 3D models, materials, lighting, and tutorials on how to actually install and use all of those extremely easily within Blender. So if you're interested in that, link will be down below. So once you go through, choose whatever it is you want. Again, I'm keeping it super simple here. I'm literally just clicking in a 3D model from my Director 3D plugin, and then I'm just keyframing the rotation so that it spins and rendering it out. That's it. Even with basic 3D knowledge, you can improve your video editing so much just by having access to a tool that'll allow you to create your own assets. So once you've created whatever you want, back in After Effects, you just right click, import multiple files, and you find wherever you rendered out that animation from Blender. So here's this web I rendered out. You just click import and then done. And then you can just drag that straight into your composition and use it just like you would the other clips. So here's a web. I can add like an HLS effect here just to sort of keyframe the hue of it. Yeah, just using different tools, using After Effects knowledge, using 3D knowledge to sort of video bash together an animated visualizer or a cool effect for your music video. Yeah, there is a ton of different tips and tricks for After Effects for creating something like this. Again, the key aspect, control the layers. That's all you need. Once you have that knowledge, you can go in and do anything you really want. The last thing I'm going to say, if you are going the visualizer route, again, you can just keep it with a black background and composite in different things. Like in the little Dirk example, all they did was take the image, animate the eyes using that tip I showed you at the beginning, and then use the puppet tool to add some sway. Something like that takes like 10 minutes. You could pump visualizers like that at the snap of a finger. It's easy to do for beginners and you can charge money to make that. It is a good skill to learn if you are trying to turn this into a side hustle or your job. In terms of video effect, what I would do personally is bring this into Premiere and add some speed. So for example, right here where it's kind of just frozen and then it's just an image. What I would do if I'm just kind of going for a crazy video effect in Adobe Premiere, once you're doing your final compositing for the whole music video, you'll have your whole setup here. All you need to do to bring this After Effects into Premiere, in their project bin, just click this little page, new item, go to transparent video. Okay, and then we can just drag this into our timeline and we'll drag it out to give it some time. Right click on that and then go to replace with After Effects composition. Of course, you have to have After Effects installed alongside with Premiere, obviously for this to work, but there we go, pops it up and we have this animated visualizers linked comp. So now all you have to do is just drag in the final comp. So for me, it's this one, tutorial. We'll find tutorial here, put it in there in the linked comp. And then also a little bonus tip. If you don't want all of this excess, you can just drag like that, right click, trim comp to work area, and then file save. And now back in Premiere, you see, because we did that trim comp to work area, you'll have this sort of checkered out area and you can just click C, make a little cut right there and you're good to go. And again, to smooth this all out, well, here's the part in the scene where it goes back to normal. So I can just click C and make a little cut like that. Let's find the part where it gets all crazy right there. Click C and make a cut there. So I can take this part, this is the clip with all the craziness, right click, speed duration, maybe like 250. It doesn't seem like it's just a freeze frame part. It seems like it flows more with the video and there's some cool stuff going on. And you can even transition in between the two. So say you want this to be a little more smooth, I can go back 2 frames, Control K to make a cut, go forward 2 frames, Control K to make a cut, select this, right click and nest it. And then you can just place any little transition effect onto here. So for that, I recommend use a preset pack. I have a bunch on my website. Preset pack 4 is also coming out. So you guys are going to be getting some new updated modern effects for Premiere and After Effects. Super excited for that. Let's just grab something from my Speed Demon 2 pack. And there you guys go. You have this sort of flash strike like that. And again, you can do the same to go back to normal footage. Bam, bam, just like that. So pretty cool. Again, I feel like it's something that you can customize, make your own. I have a lot more After Effects tutorials planned for this week, as well as a Blender tutorial where I'm recreating some 3D music videos. So if you enjoy, slap a like, comment down below, subscribe if you guys are new here. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for supporting, and I'll see you guys in the next one.